It's about 10 minutes after the 2 o'clock hour. This is Sweeney live in the studio from 1 until 4 o'clock this afternoon with the weekend recap, guys. It's good to be with you. I will be here every Sunday here with you from here on out. And again, as you heard earlier, we're going to be kind of just recapping, again, basically things that are going on in the area. What has happened, what is happening, and what will be happening. And we're taking a little bit of a broader scope today. We're actually talking about a bit of a national event that I think hit home for a lot of us out there, which was, of course, the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting that happened. We're going to have a special guest in the studio here in just a few moments and get into some stuff, but we did want to take a moment and obviously introduce the gentleman. It is Dr. Fahd Rawra. He is with us over at from Samaritan Medical Center, actually. He is a board-certified psychiatrist that is with him. So obviously welcome and thanks for being here, of course, Fahd. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Just for those of you who are not familiar, obviously, just some of the facts, obviously, which I'm sure everyone is pretty much overly familiar with at this point. But of course, on December 14th, this gentleman by the name of Adam Lanza, age 20 years old, had gone into this school and basically shot 20 children, 6 adult staff members, and wounded 2 others. And essentially, we're going to be talking about the tragedy that did happen in Newtown, Connecticut, and getting a perspective from somebody who's dealing with some of the local aftermath of that. And we're going to hear a whole lot more. Dr. Fahd, what are just real quickly before we get to a break and come back and kind of get in more detail, but what are some of the things that you think are most important to talk about today? I know before the show we were talking about some of the misconceptions and kind of gray area that was out there. What are some of the things that you're finding that may be a little bit off base, just based on what people are hearing maybe versus what actually happened, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, one of the things was how it all came to be, what was going on, the person's affiliation with the school. There was a lot of confusion there. Initially a lot of reports came out. Was this a person, did this person go to school there? Was his mother working there? Was she working there part-time? Sort of trying to get to the motive behind what he had done. As days unfolded, we got a little bit more information on exactly what was going on. Like you had mentioned earlier, a total of 26 people died that day, including 20 children and 6 educators. Our hearts go out to the families of Newtown. This was definitely one of the most tragic and saddening events.
Absolutely. I mean, it is certainly one of those things that I think no matter who you are, at some level you had a kind of a guttural reaction to something that is this grandiose. And I don't know if it's a misconception. I certainly don't want to be misleading anybody, but it does seem to be happening at a higher and higher frequency. Whether we're hearing about maybe things on a smaller scale or not, obviously this seems to be almost borderline, you could call it a trend, at least in the last 15, 20 years, that seems to be happening, at least on a mass shooting level anyway.
Yeah, generally speaking, I think that there's more attention. That with the media the way it is,
sure.
We're hearing about more things going on.
The 24-hour news cycle.
Absolutely,
right?
And everybody's got their iPads and Facebook and everything, and everybody's getting all this information at all times. So we're generally speaking, more people are aware of anything that ends up happening.
Sure.
As far as going back to the actual events, one of the things I did want to talk about a little later was, again, a lot of confusion behind this person's diagnosis. What was going on with this person? Definitely, he was very unstable.
Sure.
But a lot of things were thrown out there as far as, well, what did he have and why? What caused him to do what he did?
Right. So I think the kind of immediate need for anybody kind of getting that type of information is to sort of immediately assess it and then try to arrive at some type of justification of why that would be, no matter what, whether it's right or wrong.
Sure.
It's sort of almost that closure you need immediately just to be able to kind of compute it, or the immediately kind of the need or the want to disattach yourself from that person, whether it's dehumanizing that individual, or it's obviously trying to kind of separate yourself from them so that you can kind of gain a little bit of perspective on what it would be. But we're certainly interested to find out more about it. And just for the record, obviously, in the event that you have children out there that you think might be manifesting signs that you're a little concerned about, if you're having any type of of kind of stress after the fact or things like that, you're certainly more than welcome to be contacting us and contacting the good doctor here. We'll give you some contact information for him. But we do want to remind you, obviously, that the content of the radio show is, of course, meant for entertainment and general information purposes. No doctor-patient relationship is attempted or implied through this show. And, any medical advice, home remedies, or other medical information on the radio show shouldn't be treated as a substitute for medical advice of your own doctor. So again, we are encouraging people that if you are, suffering from the aftermath of the situation, or you are worried about your children, family members, so on, that we obviously encourage you to contact your own practitioner and try to seek help that way. But we'll hear a lot more from Dr. Fahd Rawra again when we come back right after this. This is Sweeney again, coming to you live from 1 to 4 here from the Toon Studios for the Weekend Recap. And if you're just joining us, the Weekend Recap every Sunday here from 1 to 4 now on Toons. And basically just kind of a recap, as we said, of what was going on, what is going on, and what will be going on here in northern New York. Today, we're looking at it in a bit of a broader scope. Obviously, a national tragedy happening in the early part of December, the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting that occurred. We gave you a little bit of what the facts were earlier, and we do have a special guest in the studio today, Dr. Fahd Rawra. He's a board-certified psychiatrist joining us here from Samaritan Medical Center. And before we get back into this discussion, again, we just want to remind people of the common sense nature of some of these types of discussions. If you need a doctor and you have a medical emergency, please call 911. Dr. Fahd Rawra, Samaritan Medical Center, that is, and of course, Tunes 92.5. And our sponsors are not responsible for any of the diagnosis or treatment made by anyone based on any of the content of the show. In addition, the views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of 92.5, Samaritan Medical Center, or any of the show sponsors, okay? Obviously, the end result of this is that if you do feel like you're having a medical emergency, you need to give a hold of your general practitioner, or you need to call for emergency response teams, okay? But obviously, the discussion today at hand, we all have had some type of reaction to this on some type of level, and we've talked about a lot of things, so that the facts of what happened, the facts of what occurred, and what we'd like to get into now is a little bit, again, with the good doctor here, some of the misconceptions in gray area, and sort of our need to kind of jump to some conclusions on a national level and on an individual level, whether it's through the media or it's around the kitchen table. People have this kind of inclination to sort of try to make sense of it and see if they can get their head around it, even if it might not necessarily be the case. So, Doctor, what kind of things? I know when we talked this weekend, we were talking sort of about some of the early warning signs, some of the different things that people could be paying attention to, and again, some of the maybe misconceptions that you've been noticing yourself in terms of what actually occurred.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Lanza's diagnosis. Now, there have been a lot of questions asked to define Lanza's personality, his motivation behind the acts of violence. People have delved into his psych illness and also suggested that this was the reason. To my knowledge, Adam Lanza's medical history or records have not been released. Firstly, it has been speculated that the child suffered from autism or Asperger's disorder. This has not been verified and is speculation at best. Secondly, and more importantly, autism and Asperger's, which come under the umbrella of PDD, or pervasive developmental disorders. I just want to be clear on this, that there is no connection between these disorders and premeditated acts of violence, especially in this case. So we all need to be very clear on this because it leads to unfounded prejudice.
And again, Doctor, just and certainly not to belabor the point, but I know that just for some of the people that might not be familiar with even the disease in general, now obviously there's a huge leap between the many different types of autism that are out there, and Asperger's usually being on sort of more of the I certainly don't want to paint it as more of a social disorder, but certainly not nearly as I guess detrimental as some of the forms of autism are. Just in terms of that, is there anything you could do to explain what people are associating with it out there in terms of what autism actually is? Well,
the autism generally has more to do with a social reciprocity, lack thereof. And again, I really would like to bring this home to people that this is not a result of, this is not what autism looks like. This is not what Asperger's looks like. So we need to be very clear on that. And making sure that this does not end up causing people to have a certain opinion on this illness, and people just freaking out and thinking, oh, every time there's somebody with this disorder, that's what's going to happen. This is all hearsay. We need to be very, very clear on this.
Right.
Because it's caused a lot of issues with several people out there.